And we're back with the question and answer session. Welcome to Captain's Table After Dark, where we take questions from the chat. Specifically, if you missed our first section with Cepheus talking about the economy changes to Star Citizen, the price changes and stuff like that, it seemed like it was pretty quick because it was just us kind of vibing off each other. So there was a comment in there that was the fastest table ever. It was still like 45 minutes. It's still like pretty long. That's actually pretty. That's the average I shoot for is about 40 minutes with those discussions. But so yeah, let's pull up some of these questions real quickly. The first being Shampasta. Who's just telling people how to answer. First one's from Ashley, who actually asked this question well before we started. Who asks, how many hours of grind is appropriate for an entry-level cap ship like a Polaris? Either mats for crafting or creds for buying. I'm going to cop out on this one.
Oh, Matt, you going to do that to me? All right.
I will cop out and say yes.
Yes.
We don't know what Star Citizen is going to look like. So
entry level cap ship.
Yeah.
That's an oxymoron. I kind of remember a long time ago when Chris Roberts said that he believed a constellation should be about 2 weeks of consistent gameplay to earn. If we extrapolate that a little bit, that would put a Polaris at about 2 months. 2 or 3 months, give or take. No. Connie's how much? 5 mil? Has that changed?
Mm-hmm. I think it's more than that. Let me look it up real quick.
Might be like 4 or 5 months. If it's linear. I guess it also depends on what you do.
Andromeda. It's not telling me what it is, but it does tell me. I look at the Universal Item Finder. It currently costs 10 million.
Oh, okay. So we can assume. What are people guessing the Polaris is going to be? Like 80, 90?
Probably. Not 100.
So that's like 4 months.
Yeah.
Something like that. That feels reasonable to me. Like 4 months of playing like 3 to 5 days a week for at least 2 or 3 hours a day.
We also got to remember that if it's a capital ship, it's not something you're going to get alone.
And that seemed to be the intent. An org should take like a month to earn one of these if you have like if you're a small to medium sized org.
Yeah.
That's what I think it should be. Something like a Bengal. I see people saying, Bengal. I feel like a Bengal should be like a year or two of like a medium large org.
Well, there's also more questions, which I'll add to this cop-out answer of mine of saying yes, which is, are we talking about a basic tier 1, like level 1 Polaris, or are we talking about a level 5 Polaris?
Yeah.
Are we talking about a special snowflake Polaris? Maybe you can only purchase Polarises from specific like individuals who have them. I've also heard the rumor that you won't be able to even buy Polarises. You'll have to earn them in game or build them. You have to get the materials for them, so you won't even be able to purchase them with credits. And we also know that likely the versions that we're going to get that we paid for are going to be level. I'm calling them levels because CIG calls them tiers, but everything is a tier in CIG, so I'm just calling it a level because that's what it is. Level 1 compared to the top level, which is level 3. All of them are going to be level 1s with very basic components and everything like that. So, that's why I'm a little bit more of a I couldn't tell you, because it really depends on what you're talking about. But if you're talking about a basic level 1, 4 months of consistent playing, maybe a year of consistent playing. But if you're just hard focused
down
on
if you're a group,
lower if you have more people, but
lower it by like 20% per extra player.
Yeah.
Something like that. If you've got like 4 people working on it, it should take 2 months. If you have 8 people working on it, maybe a month.
Yeah, and if it also requires like the facilities to build him, if you can only build him, that it's going to increase even further. That's why one of those it's hard to really tell, because if CIG wants to lock everything behind construction, it will depend on A, do you have the credits to purchase it from another player, or B, do you have the skills, facilities, and location to be and materials to be able to gather and build those, because the infrastructure alone is going to cost you a lot of money to be able to do so. So
I've heard a lot of people are saying like, oh well, an 890 jump is however many millions it is. I'm just gonna build one. People think that building a ship is going to be easier than buying it.
this isn't
I don't.
Atlas. Like, this isn't Arc. You're not going to just be able to
Yeah.
hard grind like shipbuilding and be able to solo
Mhm.
this shit. Like,
It's if you're building a Polaris, that's going to probably be more work than buying one, considering you get a better Polaris.
yeah.
If you like build, go through the tiers and all that. I cannot wait to hear how much work building a Bengal is going to be. I hope it is like somebody actually explodes when they hear it.
All right. Next question comes from Fred Eric Schultz, who asks, for the whole table, do you think we will see a side economy from independent sources, not player made, that are avoiding the UEE and currency and the currency UEC?
A bartering system,
Like a Banu bucks was the thing we used to call it. Like a separate secondary currency system. No, not from NPCs. I think everyone will use the UEC just because it's simple. But I do think the prices are going to be wildly different depending on where you are. That's where the Star Sim, I think, really is going to come into play, is no matter where you are, Star Sim is going to be connected to the reputation system, and thus prices will vary depending on your reputation with those factions and who you're buying from. So go ahead. Sorry.
I think players, at least on the player economy side, we could see a like bartering kind of become a thing, to where you're selling a tier 3 Polaris, and person A is like, well, I don't have 200 million AUEC to give you, but I do have 50,000 SCU of insert valuable material here. Something like that, and that could be something where they could buy more, or build the seller could build more Polarises with it, but maybe the person buying it doesn't have the base, the base and manufacturing facilities required to build their own.
That's Star Wars Galaxies. Like that's clearly that's their inspiration, is like,
Yeah.
like, I want to be a master brewer. Like, I want to be able to do like that's one of the things I want to be able to craft, is just really good booze, or that sort of thing. And I know that's going to require me to research. It's going to require me to get the right blueprints, the research. It's going to require, but I also expect people to not be able to have access to it easily. And I know some people will be, I'm going to be a ship maker. I'm going to build ships. And so they're going to figure out how to build the best Hornet variants they can. And because of that, people have to come to them, because it'll just be easier for them to go, hey, I'll buy a Hornet off of you, versus like having to grind it out other places or build it themselves.
Absolutely.
So
I really want to have a small division of my org where we're kind of like a Stark Industries type thing, where we make really high quality weapons, ship and FPS weapons. Just the stuff like that. It'd be so much fun. I'm really excited.
That's the thing. It's like, I like that sort of aspect, because it gives you a chance of doing PvP without actually having to be good at PvP.
Right.
Because like, you could rock up on my shop, kill me, and take my stuff. But when that ship eventually breaks or blows up, and you try to rock up on me again, I'm not going to be unprepared this time, and you're also going to have some problems, or I won't be there anymore because you've killed me. Congratulations. So now you have to deal with me in a manner that is 1-to-1, and which will cause drama, which will cause tension, which will cause action and storytelling to happen, which is always fun. So
you should listen to my I've got a small group within my org that wants to start like a Mos Eisley type space station, where it's like an outlaw type thing, and it's going to be really cool, but it's kind of a thing of, if you go like screwing around in there, you're not going to be allowed in.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like everybody's outlaws and allowed, but it's, you better behave yourself, you're going to get kicked out, and you're not going to get access to all the cool stuff we have here.
That's kind of the vision I have for my AstroPub, which is just sort of a place where you put the guns, you leave guns at the door. I'm not going to ask questions of where you come from, and anyone can hop in and talk with each other. But as long as you don't cause problems, everyone can be there. So If you're a cop and you want to find some information and somebody's willing to give you information, or say a bounty hunter, you want to get information, yeah, you might be able to go there and get it, but you're not going to go bring somebody in at my bar.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna be so cool. I'm so excited.
What is it? The Continental in John Wick? Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
or a hallowed ground in Highlander. It's like no, can't don't start stuff here.
Right.
All right. Next question comes from I Am Caffeine Fiend, who asks, favorite and least favorite thing in the 4.0 economy changes.
But they're the same thing. My favorite and least favorite things in the 4.0 economy changes are the same thing, at least in the state that it looks like we're going to be getting it for live. My favorite thing is that the fact that munitions are more expensive. My least favorite thing is that nobody's going to buy them because they could just claim their shit. So like they added a really cool thing, but it's pointless right now.
Mm-hmm.
Keyword right now. That's my take. Is it the kind of the same thing?
I think the biggest thing I like about the economy changes is the kind of the cheap answer is the return of actually being able to purchase illicit goods and sell illicit goods. That works for me. The thing I least like is the fact that they took away the changes to the torpedoes, because it's going to just get people to say, I'm just not going to buy any torpedoes because they're too expensive. I'm just going to claim my ship. And yeah, it means you're going to take longer, and it means you're going to have a delay, but it doesn't mean that somebody won't think it's a good idea to park their Polaris outside of a jump point and just start torpedoing random ships as they come through without any consequences.
So you just claim it and log off for the night.
Yeah. And that's what happened to me just before the stream started. I was trying to go through a jump point, and some guy with a Polaris it was just one dude in a Polaris who just locked on and fired as I was going through, and it blew up before I could get through, and it was like, that's a feels bad. Because if it was like disabled to take my shit, it'd be like, okay, that's fine. But just randomly lobbering torpedoes where I have no means of like dealing with what's going on, it just feels very just shitty. It's more of just I'm going to be shitty. Yeah.
People won't do that if you can't claim your ship to get it back.
Yeah.
If they make that price hurt, then they're only going to use it when it's worth it.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's there's definitely some changes that need to be done as a result of that. Like either they need to because they don't want to bring that in, they may need to make it like those sort of things like more, or increase our, I don't like me saying that I'm saying this, but increase, armistice zones so that people can actually play the game without being attacked, which is it's not good, but it's a solution to the problem they currently have because they still don't have everything lined up that they wanted to.
It sounds like CAG's ultimate solution that they want to end up on is just overwhelming force from the security NPCs, but they're just not there yet.
Yeah.
They can't do that yet. They don't have the like UE javelin that spawns out of nowhere and immediately steamrolls you.
Yeah.
Once they have that, I feel like, because they eventually want to do away with armistice zones completely. But how do you take that so that I don't get gunned down on the streets of Microtech immediately all of the time?
Yeah.
Without screwing up other things. Like you got to give it to CIG. They know what they want to do, and it's usually the hard way. And for what it's worth, they're getting there slowly. But yeah.
All right. Next question. So someone's talking shit because they're like, did you just say that CIG knows what they're doing? Lol. CIG has a plan. Whether they execute well on that plan is a question. CIG has a flight model. Whether we see it or when it's going to come in fully is a question, but there's definitely at least a plan there.
Man, the thing with this game that I try to because everybody dogs on this game for so many different things. I think people kind of miss the point of what Star Citizen is, kind of at the most fundamental level,
Mhm.
which is video games right now are like Ford Model Ts, and Star Citizen is they've got blueprints for a Bugatti.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what the fuck, you're insane.
Yeah.
And they're doing it. It's going to take them forever and cost billions of dollars, but they're doing it. But so many people are like looking at it like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But it just like, or they're building a Bugatti, but the automobile hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? Nobody understands it.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Chris does. That's like Chris
Mhm.
Roberts' thing. Like he tried to do that with Freelancer, and it didn't work out because he didn't have technology and lots of
Time and
other issues and
resources.
resources. So,
And now he's got an infinite of both.
yeah, so it's like this is typical for CIG. Like they have a high level idea of where they're going, and like, or Chris Roberts should say, high level idea, and they have goals, but somewhere along the way, things are going to get changed or increase or decrease. But yeah.
Mm.
All right. Next question comes from Spicy Jones, who asks, I don't mind CIG playing with the prices this way, but should the game be, should the game packed that come with like five package that comes with 5K UV adjusted as well? Yes. Yeah. I think they should change those once they have a good idea of what the actual pricing is. The 5K, because the new ones actually come with 20K.
Do they?
Yeah. All new packages come with 20K. At least they did as of IAE. So going back and adding those is fine. And the other thing that's important to remember is that if you had a 5K UEC from like way back in the day, CIG gave away a bunch of free UEC over the course of the 12 years this game's been in development. So, all right. Zanatori asks, if we're talking about logistics and market trading, do we see this game evolving into a real world economy?
Like a money-backed economy?
No, I don't think it's
Like
going to be money-backed. Well, so the economics teacher is going to put my economics teacher hat on. All that an economy is the distribution of resources, of scarce resources in a society. That's all that an economy is. So any game that has a distribution of resources in a scarce resources in a society is an economy, has an economy. I think the question is more, do you think we will see a player economy that mimics real world economic features? And the answer is yes. But also, we're not talking Eve. Eve is like anarcho-capitalism run amok, whereas Star Citizen is going to be a lot more controlled because CIG still has a lot of levers they can pull to change things up, even with the player driven stuff, because they can just arbitrarily increase or decrease the cost of materials to make for specific things, or change the value of those resources or the scarcity or the location of those resources if they want to. They have a lot more control over how things are done and will likely change those things, on top of things like if they think your player faction is too strong, they can just send the UEE in and just wreck you up, just destroy your space stations and your home bases and just say you were causing trouble, Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think this is going to be a kind of like mimicking a real world economy?
I might just kind of go with what you said. I'm not that qualified. I like in-game economies. I'm not a real-world economics expert in any way, shape, or form. I think it's going to be, like you said, CIG's kind of got a finger in it. And as long as they keep, an influence, a heavy influence in the economy, but kind of let players kind of mold it a little bit and play with it. And do what they want with it while still kind of like, here's your sandbox. It's got walls, but it's a sandbox. That'll be good. And CIG can kind of change where those walls are, what color the sand is, how much sand there is, stuff like that. I'm hoping that kind of I hope that's kind of where we end up, where it'll ebb and flow with the players, but it's not going to be Eve. I don't want it to be Eve.
Yeah, I think. Hold on. There we go. I think that we will see. I don't think CIG wants it to be Eve. I think when they're looking at the economy and like the markets, they seem to be more mimicking Star Wars Galaxies than Eve, which in my opinion is the right way of looking at things, because nothing really has tackled economies and class and like professions like Star Wars Galaxies did. It was simplistic and basic for its time, but it's the actual complexity came down to allowing for players to specialize in specific areas that gave them an advantage overall. Not allowing for like one group to control everything, to be able to be good at everything. They had to sort of find a good route. And I think they're in that right direction where everything's going to cost resources or time or other aspects, which kind of cause that to be a little bit harder to focus on everything. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Shinobi asks, I've grown accustomed to only earning enough money to buy ship components, armor, and restocking ammo. Will the economy changes make it tougher for someone like me to be complacent with my current credit earnings like me? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
The cost is going to go up and you're going to have to be stuff. But I also think that CIG, hopefully, this is a big hope, not necessarily a true, will start to have specific events or actions which will allow you to make a lot of money in a short period of time, but make it rare. I would love to see a Save Stanton's type event once every quarter. Series of 4 or 5 missions, like you can earn, $500,000 to $1 million credits just from doing those mission light trains. I love that sort of story-driven element and like progression, and the making a lot of money through that event would drive players towards it, and that gives something for players to work towards. It allows for someone to be like, oh, whew, I am cutting it close this month. Oh wait, no, the event's happening this month. I'm gonna go Hail Mary. Let's go, and that encourages people to work together and do those sorts of things. So, what do you think?
Yeah, it's gonna get more difficult if the players that are playing in such a way where they're kind of just barely scraping by. That's gonna get a little bit tighter. I don't want CIG to swing it too heavy-handed, where you have to play spreadsheet citizen in order to make a profit. But yeah, you'll have to work. You kind of have to think, am I making a profit? Not just how much profit am I making. But it's a balance, and these changes might be a little bit much in the wrong direction, or just a little too far.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. We don't know yet. Everybody's playing around in the PTU when you start off with 15 million AUEC. I don't think anybody's really experienced, day one, just starting with 20K or whatever.
Yeah.
And building up with nothing. I do hope that this ends up being kind of with that, only earning enough. You own a Polaris, you own a Starlancer, you own a Javelin, whatever. I hope that kind of when this game launches on 1.0, you can't touch any of those ships until you've already put like a couple weeks worth of money earnings into it. I think that's the direction we're going, and I hope that's how it ends up. But yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Angel Wolf NS asks, what are the chances of Star Citizen turning into... Oh, I already answered that question. I thought I already...
Real world. Not that specific question, but Zane kind of asked the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with that. That was another one. Shimpasta asks, when do you feel Star Citizen players will realize that they won't be able to do everything in Star Citizen, aka be a completionist? I think they're already starting to. And it's not necessarily you can't do everything. You just won't be able to do everything in one character.
And a long enough timeline.
Yeah.
That was it just some player theory crafting, or did I hear CIG actually say that they plan to let you have multiple different characters like simultaneously?
They did specifically say it at CitizenCon that they talked about the idea of having multiple character slots.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
I didn't remember if that was just some guy brainstorming or if that was actually CIG. But yeah, I feel like via that mechanic, you will be able to do everything, just not with one, like you said, not with one guy.
Yeah. But yeah, I think people are starting to realize that. It's just one of those situations where you will be able to try everything, but to do everything is not the case. But yeah. Locke Ostry, Kestrel11 asks, what do you think about even more items being pulled from the stores, especially from the stores in Stanton? It feels weird that we're supposed to run down Pyro system has a wide range of guns. Is it though?
I didn't see about anything. The only thing I saw being pulled from stores was Class A and B military ship components.
Yeah. But is it
That was the only
weird?
thing I saw getting pulled.
Can't you buy like specialized weapons in Pyro, like railguns and stuff like that?
I don't believe you can buy. I think the only new weapon that I've seen for sale in Pyro, now disclaimer, I have not looked exhaustively, but the only new gun that I've seen being able to be purchased off the shelves in Pyro was the FS9.
Okay.
That isn't available in Stanton.
Yeah, but apparently railguns are gone from Pyro. I feel like that's a good place to CIG, come on. Like, if you want to remove like railguns from Stanton, that makes sense. It's a controlled system, you know, but Pyro should have some railguns.
they should make them available in shops that are like rep locked locations.
Yeah.
You have to get good rep with some of these gangs, and then you're allowed to go to these places that sell these high-end equipment. That's how it should be. And they're probably working that way. They just haven't yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's my assumption.
Yeah. But I'm okay with the idea of Pyro having weapons and gear that's only found in Pyro, because like it's the Wild West. Like Stanton actually has actual, you know, logistics or not logistics, like a security, and it's like law and order. Whereas Pyro, it's kill or be killed. So if you can get a gun or some sort of equipment that give you an edge, they'll give it to you, sort of thing. So, you know, I 100% believe it should be. You should find more guns. You should find exotic guns, exotic armor, just stuff that's just you wouldn't find anywhere else there. But
I think it should all be rep locked. You get, you know, tier 8 rep with Citizens for Prosperity, Frontier Fighters, whoever, and you get access to their, you know, that one location that normally the turrets shoot at you. Now they don't. You can land there and go talk to the dude and buy his P6LR and, you know, insert your favorite heavy armor and all of that. I want them to go that way, because you should be able to buy these things. There are so many things that are in the loot table that I have never ever seen, because there are so many things in the loot table.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's a lot of new stuff there.
Yeah.
Stanton is a manufacturing hub on the Empire. You should be able to buy anything there. Not necessarily. There's some things that are just illegal to own. Just because, you know, China makes a bunch of material, is one of the biggest places to like make material, doesn't mean that you should be able to purchase, you know, 5-inch guns on ships from China or Tomahawk cruise missiles from China. Like, you know, that sort of thing.
It's all, I mean, it all makes sense within the universe, right? It's a tier beyond what we have like in real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, real life, we have the Second Amendment, but I can't go buy an F-18.
Yeah.
I can't go buy a rocket launcher, stuff like that. Star Citizen's kind of a tier above. You can buy the F-18, but they draw the line at rocket launchers, apparently.
Well, there's also like things you have to go through and reputation, like rep lock stuff. And so like that would make sense in game. If Stanton, you could purchase that stuff with the right rep, but like Pyro should be a place where you don't have to have necessarily the rep. It's just, you want a gun? We'll buy sell you a gun for the right price. So yeah, it's
just the game balance part of it at that point. If everybody and their mother has a railgun, then railguns don't really mean anything.
That's true. Let me go back to the questions. We're zooming through these, so we're doing pretty good. But we're still
keep asking questions.
We're 30
keep
minutes
us here for 3 hours.
We're 30 minutes in, so it's not like we're Spacey Jones asks, wasn't it yesterday that we asked questions in Is Star Citizen 2 easy? So yes, I did release a video or like a question, an After Dark, where I put the title of this as Too Easy. And the main kind of focus of this one was around that, because that's really what got me to talk about this one, is the whole topic of, is Star Citizen too easy, and having the struggle and things like NPCs and all that sort of thing made me go, well, there's a lot of economic changes in 4.0, and I want to talk about those changes as how that will impact difficulty, because I do think that there is going to be a difficulty expander, but it's not going to be get good, bro. It's going to be do you spreadsheet, bro? Do you logistics, bro? Are you a logi, bro? You know,
I don't want to play Spreadsheet Citizen, but I also don't mind a little bit of Spreadsheet Citizen.
mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of Arma, the Arma series, and Arma 3 is basically logistics simulator for about half of the time you play. Half the time play is either setting up or getting resources, and then the other half, if you're lucky, usually more like 40% of the game is the actual gameplay. But logistics and setting up is part of the fun. It's like acquiring things, executing on plans. One of the really good kind of game modes, which I believe is a fan-made game mode, it's called Antistasi, where you can play with friends, and the goal is for you to overthrow the local government as a rebel group. And you start off with clothes and like a 9mm submachine gun. And you get different missions you can complete to earn money and unlock, and you can use that money to pay for different material things. And you can capture enemy ships or enemy vehicles and enemy planes and helicopters, and then store them and then use them in your own actions. And so it's a sort of back and forth where you have to sort of unlock and move forward. But a lot of that is, I have to do this mission, unlock this logistics hub, drive this thing back to the location, get the right materials for the job. So a lot of it is planning and then executing on the plan. And so if you plan properly, the execution of the plan can be good, that sort of thing. So, I'm okay with that, as long as it's not, I have to bust out Microsoft Excel and start doing the calculations. So
if they make it kind of a 1/4 or 1/2 to 1 planning to gameplay ratio, I'd be okay with that. Like if you plan for an hour, you can get 2 to 3 hours of gameplay for that 1 hour of planning. I'm okay with that. But if it's like a negative ratio or something where I'm planning for 2 hours for every half hour of gameplay, nah, too much. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how the chips fall.
Okay. Let's see the next question. Sherpasa asks, do you think CIG should prioritize player-to-player commerce? Yes, once crafting comes out. I think that needs to be dropping with crafting.
That's going to be, I think, fundamentally what crafting does. Is it's going to be a 50-50 between like making stuff for yourself and making stuff for other people. And that's what's going to give kind of base building and crafting its own and player run shops a big draw for a lot of people is going to be that. And that's all. They don't even have to prioritize it. They just have to put that stuff in the game and enable us to do it, and the players will prioritize it themselves. They actually might have a hard time. CIG might have to actually work pretty hard to keep player to NPC commerce being worth anything. That might be something that CIG actually struggles with.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing for me. The big takeaway with player to player commerce is being able to legally own an item. So if a player, you buy an item like a ship from another player, you need to be able to legally keep that item as yours, insure it, and all that sort of thing. Like there needs to be a transfer of ownership. So it's not just I have this ship and it disappears. So, or this vehicle or this weapon or that kind of thing. So I think they're on that path, but
I hope all that comes with crafting, because if it doesn't, that's going to be a big letdown. If it doesn't properly support giving things to play, because right now, if I go loot some cool rare piece of armor, I can sell it to you. You pay me with the app, I give you the thing, you have it just like I have my stuff. Ships and vehicles and stuff that's not in yet. I hope that they add a way to transfer ownership. Obviously, that's going to get really kind of difficult when it comes to like pledged things. And I have a feeling they're going to make it so that you can't sell pledged stuff. But we'll see.
All right. let's move on to the next question. Oh, Lunamir asks, was Axis supposed to be here? I popped in a few minutes late. So Axis was supposed to be here, and then Axis had a Windows betrayed him, as Windows does like to do. He came in the last minute being like, hey, I need to come in and I can help out. And then his PC had to restart, and his camera got blurry for some reason, and a lot of technical issues happened, so we had to move on without him, unfortunately. So, all right. Gin and Tonic asks, Ackland asks, wasn't the Vision of Privateer-esque game? Sort of. Star Citizen was never supposed to be single player, but the Vision was freelancer but online originally. And it's not too different from freelancers still. The major changes have been being able to land on planets, but that was originally going to be a post-launch feature, and then Frankfurt happened, and there's no longer a post-launch feature. Ironically, that's one of the reasons why Star Citizen is taking so long to make. I think if Star Citizen had kept on its original vision directly, it would have been out in 2018 and would have been something similar to like a what we see with Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, but with multiplayer. You know, or it would have been an MMO version of Starfield. Would be what we would have had, which I don't think people really wanted. So, would have been Freelancer, but now we're getting it as the Starlancer. Yeah, I guess it's a good way of putting it. Starlancer was a game that was released after Freelancer and was built in the same universe, I think. So, all right. Good Clean Gaming RX asks, considering the number of features that are still to be added to the game, should the economy balance be a lower priority until most of the features that will influence the economy are in? No. Because they don't want to wipe. CG doesn't want to wipe as much as they have been doing recently. And so them dealing with the economy now before those features are in gives them a good baseline to continue to add those features and work through them. If they let things happen like bugs and those sorts of things, then yeah, those things they may have to wipe a little bit more, but they need to get sort of the basic how you earn money, how you get reputation in before they start doing all of the other features. Because all those other features tie into the system, but they don't define the system. You know, what bounty hunting is good, but bounty hunting is just a mission. You can balance the rewards for bounty hunting. What are some of the other ones that have yet to be in? I think bounty hunting is the big one. Refining, same thing. People transport, which is probably not going to be in 1.0 anyways. Trying to think of what else. What other features are there that we're missing? There's not a lot of gameplay that we're missing in terms of the basic features.
A lot of the basic game is there.
Yeah, I can't think of any of the other features that were medical gameplay. Medical gameplay is already there. Like medical gameplay is in game. It's just not finished.
Stuff needs to be finished. Stuff needs to be added, and there are gameplay loops that are yet to be added. But a lot of the core of Star Citizen, especially with 4.0, is there.
Yeah,
like we're here. The game is here.
Yeah,
we're not playing half a game anymore.
Exploration is missing. Kind of. A lot of that is going to be, that's probably the only other feature that we haven't had a full overview for, because everyone's like, what is exploration? But we know what science is now. Science is research. This is research for blueprints and stuff like that. So
I think everybody's got a different idea as to what exploration is going to be.
All right. Exploration was brought up. I got to do it. I'm going to make a lot of people mad. I'm going to make a lot of people mad. Here we go.
Do it.
So this has been my controversial hot take, and it's 100% going to make a lot of folks in the chat, and if you watch this afterwards, mad. Most people had an idea of exploration that was never achievable in Star Citizen. I think most people were hoping for exploring brave new worlds and making love to green alien women. The Star Trek, idea of exploration, forgetting the fact that in Star Trek, most of the time they're delivering medical supplies to a colony, delivering colonists to a colony, delivering supplies to a random outpost, or going to an area that has already been charted that they're updating the charts for, or scanning a nebula. all of the crazy stuff that happens when they're doing basic stuff like that. And so the exploration as its core is likely and was likely never going to be this sort of go explore and find a jump point, despite what people were hoping for. Because Star Citizen wasn't, even at its launch, Star Citizen was going to have 100 systems originally. It was never going to have the elite dangerous level. You can go out into the distant stars and explore a bunch of things. It was always going to be what I call cartography exploration. Go to this region of space, map that region of space. Oh, but it's already settled. Yeah, but doesn't mean it's not been updated. You're going to be USGS, but in space. You're going to go down to a planet and you're going to explore an area. You're going to go through an area that needs to be updated and mapped, even though that planet's already been, it's going to be Hurston or Microtech, or a moon, but it's going to just be mapping and updating maps.
Yeah.
The most you're going to do with jump points is going to be transient jump points, but those are going to be temporary. So
pathfinding will be a thing, going around to the pathfinding ship saying, "Hey, org, there's a route that connects this place and this place, and I've figured out a trade route that works really well for this. To grab it while it's hot."
Yeah,
kind of thing. That'll be a thing. It'll be, like you said, just kind of updating maps, finding cool like derelict locations with CIG's the location placing technology that they talked about at CitizenCon, where they're going to have thousands and thousands of locations per planet. Exploration gameplay will probably be someone going around, scanning, finding something that has some cool loot that they don't need, and then selling the coordinates. That's going to be a lot of exploration, I think. And, transient jump points, that finding resource deposits, both planetary and asteroid based. It's not going to be, I feel like a lot of people think it's going to be like elite dangerous type exploration, and it's just not. It can't be.
No. It's just not in the way that Star Citizen is designed.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that's fine. Like being able to go to an area, because I think the core idea of what exploration is going to be is scan an area. Most of the time, it's going to be nothing. Might be a couple of things here, like, oh, there's an interesting deposit, on this asteroid it's nearby, and go. I can sell that data to somebody else, or let somebody know about that data. But most of the time, it's not going to be anything crazy. It'll just be updating maps, go to a place, turn it in, turn in your data, and move on. And that's really what exploration as a gameplay mechanic is. It's not going to be this sort of idea of charting brave new worlds or anything like that. So, please send all your complaints down below. You please personally blame me for CIG changing this, because it's always, of course, I as a streamer, of course, I have all of this power that people think I have of actually changing these things. Please let me know your thoughts down below on the exploration, especially if you are looking forward to it, or if you're worried about what it might be. All right, let's move on to the next question. Next question is from Angel Wolf NS, who asks, any update when we can buy 16 and 32 SCU containers?
Nope.
No. No, this is a rewrite. I actually skipped over, because Jin said in chat to skip over his first question. Don't you think that if NPCs sell higher tier commodities and materials, they can still serve their original purpose of being a check on inflation and keeping players from being locked out of higher tier crafting? Yes, but I think that's more of a lever that CIG can pull than an intent.
Yeah, and especially if they lock it behind rep.
Yeah.
That would be, you've done 50 missions for me, I'll sell you the good stuff, kind of thing. So yeah, but I agree. I don't think they're going to start off that way. But if like the economy gets to a point where CIG thinks that will help, then they could do that.
All right. Spacey Jones. Okay, nope. This one, gin and tonic. Yeah, that was that one. There was all like, please ignore my first question. Someone's like, no question round, whatever. Gin and tonic asks, do you think any ship should be able to earn its operating costs, and why? Yeah.
Yes. Asterisk.
What's the asterisk? Asterisk.
I feel like at the super large scale, where we're talking like large capital ships, Javelin, Bengal, Idris, they should need a support fleet um to operate them. I feel like the Polaris should probably be about the biggest ship that you can earn your operating costs in. Um because I mean kind of like an aircraft carrier in real life, right? You send one of those out, you're losing money. It's just is the objective worth more? And I guess that's directly earn its operating costs versus like what is the value you're gaining. I don't think there's a mission you'll be able to do in a javelin that's going to earn you more money than it costs to use the javelin.
No.
But when it comes to player versus player, a fight over territory, is that planet that you just secured for yourself worth more than the cost of that javelin to you? Probably. Um, I feel like that might be how it goes. So kind of like yes, except like the four biggest ships in the game. Every other ship, yes, I think so.
I think the reason why they should be able to earn, like, I don't think there should be one. I agree with you. There shouldn't be a mission that you could just earn the cost of your entire ship, but there should be missions that you make money off of. So like there should be a
Yeah.
way for you to make money off of your ship. There should always be a mission for every ship for that.
I think it should be really that you should have, if you're operating javelins and Bengals,
Mhm.
you should also be operating vultures and prospectors and moles and Arastras and Orions
Mhm.
that should earn vastly more than their operating costs to offset your combat endeavors.
Yeah.
That I feel like is what it should really be, is that the industrial ship should earn so much more than their operating costs that the ships that you will almost always operate at a loss, i.e. Javelin, Bengal, etc., that it justifies it. And that's where like having an org is going to really come in, is that you're going to have the guys that are earning your bank and you're going to have the guys that are securing your territory and expanding your territory. And that one will lose money, the other will earn money.
And I do think there should be a risk involved.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for instance, like you shouldn't just be able to earn everything. You should, if you're going to be earning money off like a javelin, there needs to be a mission that is going to help you earn it, but you're going to risk a lot of damage, sort of thing.
Yeah. If you do it like perfectly, maybe you make a profit, but if you take some bad hits, you're
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because there needs to be gameplay for every ship. If there's not
Yeah.
gameplay for every ship, there's no reason for that ship to exist. And large capital ships, for instance, should have a purpose. Even if it is those instance battles with the Vandul, that's fine, as long as there is some sort of way you can earn money off of it. Even if the margins are razor thin, there still should be some reason to do it. But I agree, like in big industry ships should definitely have more of a profit overhaul. So, um, go on to the next question. Okay. Escape asks, if I owned a name ship and another loaner for the same ship is, if I own a name ship and another loaner of the same ship, is there any way to know will tell the difference in ASOP? No, unfortunately,
Nope.
no, not right now.
I just try my best to retrieve one and let the other be in the deliver state.
Yep. Mark Harding asks, question, I know Paul is vehemently against NPC crew. I'm not vehemently against it. I just feel like it's such a nightmare to balance that it's probably never going to be put in, or will be so fundamentally broken that bad that most people won't get much use out of it, because it's just such a nightmare to try to balance that issue. But what if the ability to hire NPC crew is behind rep grind? But almost certainly will be, and also get capped out at a small number. Let's say 3. Quick to get one, slow to get 3. There will be I think there will be a limit on how number of NPCs you can hire. You're not going to be able to hire an army of NPCs. I think CIG will cap that just because server costs. Backend cannot handle a lot of stuff. So, what do you think? Do you think that there's a way of managing NPC crew that will like make sense, like rep grind NPC?
I feel like NPC crew is this whole like nightmare of a scenario.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea. That is such a like monumental problem. I don't even. I feel like CIG is like just barely talked about it because they're like I don't know. Like that's there's so many ways that that could go poorly. They'd have to work well. If they suck and they're not as good as players, but they're super expensive, then nobody's ever going to use them, and the development time to make them happen is going to be a waste. If they're better than players, then nobody's ever going to play with their friends. If they're like equivalent to players, how the heck are you going to make that happen? That feels like technologically impossible.
Mhm.
um, I feel like we will eventually get NPC crew, but it's going to be in the way of like gunners, maybe engineers, janitors, stuff like that. You're not gonna, in my personal theory, this is not like confirmed stuff, but I don't think you're gonna be having people that are flying your ships around, and like you
Mhm.
can have a javelin with 59 NPCs and you're the captain. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. But like having a couple NPCs to like man your turrets and be engineering, maybe eventually. Who knows? I feel like this is so far off in the future that just like nobody knows.
Well,
CIG doesn't know.
it's post 1.0, so we don't even know when that's going to happen and that kind of thing. So
I think we'll get the blades first.
yeah.
Automating the turrets. Engineering already, I don't think is going to be an immediate thing that you need. Um, you need to like keep a constant eye on, except in the biggest of ships. And I do think that the biggest capital ship should always require multiple players to effectively run.
Yeah.
Keyword effectively, but yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Ackland, who says, "How many research stations will be the cap? You think?"
I don't think there'll be a cap.
I don't think there will be a cap for research stations. I think
It'll
you'll,
just be cost.
yeah, it's the cost, and I think you'll management is going to be the thing because I can imagine each research station will have a specific thing it's researching. So if you want to research multiple things at once, you have to have multiple research stations, and yeah, I think it'll be more about the cost of running them and how to manage them and remembering which ones to go which. So, you know,
I think it's going to be kind of the same way of how many ships can you run simultaneously, how many bases can you run simultaneously. People are going to have to balance running costs, purchase costs. There's the ever present real life question of maybe you can purchase the thing, but can you afford it? They're not the same thing.
mhm.
Can you purchase 18 research stations? Maybe. Is that going to be a waste of your time and money? Different
Well,
question.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think the CIG doesn't tend to like hard caps on things. They go the way of limiting you through just gameplay means, practicality means.
That seems to be their plan, at least. Because, like, yeah, there's no reason
Yeah.
you couldn't be an expert at everything. It'll take you a
Mhm,
while, but you know.
mhm. And it has to be viable too, and it just may not be. And yeah, that they reserve the right, of course, to just give you can only have 6 research stations,
Mhm,
but I don't feel like they're gonna do that because I feel like they're gonna make CIG seems really against like idle progression.
mhm.
They're gonna make you have to do things to research this stuff. Having 8 research stations is not going to help you if you cannot actively maintain and manage all 6 or 8 research stations at once, which I don't think will be the case. So it just depends. We'll see. That's my favorite phrase with Star Citizen is we'll see.
We'll
Who
see.
knows? The CIG doesn't know. I'm assuming nobody
Nebulous.
knows.
For those you who follow trees here at 311. All right. Shambasta asks question: After seeing CIG's vision for 1.0, do you think it lives up to the original vision? What
You
do you think,
skipped 2
Cepheus?
questions.
Did I? Oh, right. Let's do that one and then we'll go back.
Okay. Um, After seeing CIG's vision for 1.0, do you think it lives up to the original vision? Are we talking like original vision, like Kickstarter original vision?
Yeah, original vision.
It goes so freaking far beyond that. It's not even the same game. Like it's not even the same game. What CIG proposed in their original Kickstarter is a shell of what CIG is today, nonetheless 1.0. So, short answer yes. Um I don't think it's even comparable in a positive way.
I think pretty much everything that they wanted in the original vision is still there in 1.0. It's just expanded beyond it. You know, like I said,
I don't think they've sacrificed anything.
no. I do think that the one argument people might have is something to like do with like, oh well, sim, like it was supposed to be a space sim, and I also, as I have a constant refrain about game terminology. Game terminology is confusing, and it's a problem because it's hard to define things. Like for instance, when you say MMO, it will mean different things to different people. An MMO to some people is an MMORPG. To other people, it just means massively multiplayer online game. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. There was a game on PS3 which was called the first FPS MMO, which had like 1,000 players on it. It was like Big Battle Game or something like that. It was an abbreviation for something like that. And you know, like technically PlanetSide is an MMO, right? But no one would call PlanetSide an MMO. No one would say that PlanetSide and WoW are the same game, you know?
Yeah. And I think with like the sim question,
MAG, thank you, massively online game, massive action game. That was what it was called. Strikers, right? Yeah, but the problem with sim is that space sim, when Chris Roberts was talking about it in 2012, meant more like Wing Commander. Wing Commander and Elite were called space sims. Are they actually simulators? No.
Because that's not what a simulator is.
Yeah.
I remember back in the Kickstarter-ish days, Chris Roberts wrote, all of his different design documents, and he talked about, being able to dig through the menus and the MFDs of your ship, and you could, if you toggled all the settings in just the wrong way, you'd blow your own ship up. They've obviously kind of walked away from that level of complexity, which as a pilot hurts, but also for literally everybody else, I agree with the decision. So like, yeah, they've walked away from the space sim part a little bit, but at the same time, it's still probably one of the most high fidelity spaceflight experiences you can get outside of a like real sim like Kerbal Space Program or I mean, Elite I would call more simmy than Star Citizen, but I honestly could not tell you why.
It also it's also not realistic. It has space drag just like everything else, and there's a lot of artificial changes that it's made to it to make it fly more like an actual like airplane, less 6 degrees of freedom.
Elite went much more of the World War II in space approach, which I've played Elite before I played Star Citizen. I've got like over 2,000 hours in Elite. I love that game, and Star Citizen definitely handles more realistic, but kind of what is realism in a space sim like Star Citizen? It's plausible deniability. It's science fiction as opposed to science fantasy. I'm happy with the direction they're going, and I think that every kind of change they've made from the original vision has been a positive one, in my present opinion, without going through and digging through all the original design documents and stuff.
Yeah, I think another thing to remember is that no game ever survives its design process. Things always change. Famously, I like to bring out the fact that Halo started off as a RTS. Then it turned into a third-person action game, and then eventually an FPS. For a third-person action game for Mac.
Like one of my favorite phrases that Jared says is, "It is called game development, not game construction."
Yeah, and things change. There's one of the biggest, like, scariest things for a game developer is to put hours and hours of work into a game and then having to release it, not knowing if it's good or not. And there's a saying in the games industry that there are far more games that have been made than have ever been sold. There's plenty of games that are made and they get to the process of finishing up and they're like, this is awful. This is garbage. No one's going to play this game. And then they kind of get rid of it. Because there's a lot of times what you think is a cool idea and you actually get to the point of that cool idea, it's like, oh, this is boring. So it really, there's a lot of like play in that. So I'm sure there's still elements of someone could have a bullet point list of all the things that are different that are been removed from the game, from the original vision. But I don't think any of that would matter as much depending on, I guess perspective, but in terms of like actual gameplay.
Yeah.
All right. Next question's from Angel Wolf NS, who asks, do you want to be able to reverse engineer ships? I think that'd be a cool feature in the future, but not initially.
Yes, asterisk.
What's the asterisk?
You need to be there needs to be like severe limitations on it, which is, you can't just like steal someone's Polaris, like steal someone's grade 5 Polaris, and then bam, you can build a grade 5 Polaris. You need to steal 30 grade 5 Polarises, and then now you can build a grade 1 Polaris or something like that. Like it needs to be like barely even worth it. Like you could do it and it's like worth something, but like just earn it the normal way would probably be best. I feel like selling the ship should probably just be a better, because they want, CIG wants you to be able to steal ships and then sell them. That would probably just be more worthwhile. Reverse engineering for the purposes of crafting.
Yeah.
Honestly, that could probably contribute to research.
Yeah.
Is if you're like, you're at grade 3, you want to get to grade 4, you could either construct 30 Polarises to get to grade 4, or you could reverse engineer 60 of them, or some combination of the two.
Yeah.
That would, sure, but like I feel like reverse engineering, that just opens the door to so many exploits.
Yeah.
That CIG probably just won't even touch it.
The question comes down to, is it fun? If you capture a ship and you put it into there, are you actually going to research it, or are you just going to stick it in a hangar and let the computer research it for you? Like, is that actually fun to do, or what? Like, 'cause I don't think CIG is famously Beam Citizen when it comes to Star Citizen, Beam Citizen stuff. I don't think it's necessarily going to be an engaging experience to do that. And that's really what it comes down to.
If it was, like Hard Space Shipbreaker, where you like disassemble it and then research all the pieces individually, that would be cool. But that's not what they're going for.
Yeah.
That's not what this game is.
Dell asks, do you think CIG will add ways for players to see other players' reputation with NPC factions? It would help with identifying friends or foes. Not at all asking so I know who the Karen sympathizers are. The Karens for the HOA, aka Karens for gentrification, aka Citizens for Prosperity. Dell's not, and I am not a big fan of them. They're very antithetical to the whole existence of Pyro, in my opinion. But that's a different thing. So, do you think you'll be able to check other players' reputation with other factions?
I don't know. That's a good something I haven't thought of before. It might do. They might go like a more simple route, where if you're in an area, say you're high rep with the Citizens for Prosperity, you show up and all the Citizens of Prosperity NPC ships are green. You have another player come in the area and they also have high rep with Citizens of Prosperity, so they're also green. Or maybe they have really poor like negative rep with them, so now they show up as red. Before they've even attacked you, they're marked as a hostile, or they're marked as neutral, so they don't have good rep. Elite does a similar thing, and that might be kind of how they end up. I don't know.
They kind of have something similar to that, because they do have the ability to mark people as hostile in your organization. So there may be some sort of like KOS sort of like stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like that's different from like viewing someone's like rep list. I don't think you're going to be able to like click on their profile and then open up their different like tiers of rep with everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna, maybe for your org members, but not just like a random player. You target their ship, you pull up their like list of allegiances. I don't think they're gonna do that, and I can't tell you why.
I think they could, and I would see them doing that specifically with bounty hunting.
Yeah.
Because if you do enough research for like trying to find a bounty to figure out who they're allied with, so you might be able to talk with some people or people who they don't like, that kind of thing. I can see that sort of thing being with NPCs. So if that's available for NPCs, I could see something like that for Star Citizen, or for players being able to like use that sort of aspect. So
yeah.
All right. Well, next question comes from Shimpasta, and I'm going to end the questions because we're now at over an hour. And
we still got a good, the
we got
list
some
has
more people
grown.
come here. You said the word, so they stopped. They didn't stop. They started asking it. Chimpasta asks, with the controversy around land claims, should CIG just give everyone a free land claim? And what are your thoughts on the whole land claim idea? No, they shouldn't.
No.
Land claims were always going to be planned, and even with 1.0's vision, they said that land claims are going to work. They seem to make sense. I don't know. What do you think?
No, they should not just give everybody a free land claim. They've already said that like your reward, among other things, your reward for completing the like main Star Citizen quest line is going to be your citizenship, which allows you to put land like anywhere. Like I'm assuming unless you're a citizen, you can't get a land claim on Terra or something like that. So I'm assuming even the people with Pioneers that have bought land claims can't just like set down on Terra without being a citizen. I'm assuming that. Giving everybody a free land claim would devalue land claims. And I have a feeling that a lot of people won't want land claims. Like if your org, if you're, so many people play on orgs. If your org has a mega complex with like barracks that house hundreds or thousands of people, just live there. It's cheaper. It's easier. You have a giant space station, just have a room in the space station. And I feel like having your own little land somewhere should have a value, especially since my opposition to everyone having a free land claim is the fact that you kind of do in lawless areas. Anybody can plant roots anywhere in Pyro.
Yeah.
You don't need a land claim. I feel like that kind of satisfies that desire. But if you want land in a lawful area where you'll have security, you got to pay for it. You got to earn it. And I like that.
Yeah. And just because you purchased a land claim doesn't mean you have anything crazy. You still have to pay taxes for it. And we're talking about like the Star Citizen right now. The size of the land claim is very small. It's big, but it's very small in comparison to like a planet. And you won't be able to do everywhere. They've even talked about the idea of having like a national parks, what they called for, or like basically federal land, which is not accessible by the average person. So they can expand it later if they want to. So you're not going to have a land rush where people are looking for specific places. And in UEE space, you're never going to have the high resource caps that you're going to have in Pyro. They want to incentivize settlement of Pyro and Nyx versus Stanton or Castra or Terra. So
yeah.
All right, next question. I don't really know what the controversy is. Is that they think that people are buying power with land claims? Is that what the controversy is?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
I don't know what the controversy is. So please let us know in the comments. What is the controversy? Because like I try to stay out of Spectrum and Reddit for my own mental sanity. So
I'm involved in Reddit, but I'm selective and I avoid Spectrum like the plague. So
Jack of No Trades asks, why isn't the Q&A section called Last Call? Because that's what I'm going to call my dedicated call-in show, which is going to be for the Captain's Table. Going forward, for those who don't know, I don't want to step on Salty Mike's stuff with his answer the call sort of idea. But I do want to, every so often, we have situations where like this, where Cephas is here and somebody else drops out, or like people are busy, or it's just like other things are happening and I can't really, gather people together to have some sort of call-in show where people can ask questions or come in and ask their own questions and that sort of thing. That's something I want to do in the future. And I do want to also do dedicated Q&A shows where it's just taking questions from the chat, that sort of thing, sort of talking and taking questions from the chat. So yeah, that's why. I like the After Dark idea because it's more of we're getting wild. And we're going to say some stuff that's not necessarily what's on the main page. Ackland asks, blueprints, how much research stations will you be able to own and use at once? Do you think he asked that twice?
We already touched on that.
Yeah, I think he asked it twice. Angel Wolf asks, even in a lawless system, I expect some kind of quote unquote laws, not the ones handled by the UEE, but don't you think the gangs in Pyro will have their own laws? Yeah.
Yeah, they've talked about that.
It's a reputation thing. you know? Yeah.
Yeah. It'll hurt your rep if you
Yeah.
go to some org's base or some gang's base and start shooting up everybody. They're not going to let you in again. They may not send you to prison, but they'll shoot you. And then the next time you show up, they're going to shoot you again. So, yeah, basically, that's what they've said.
All right. Next question is from Subgenius5150, who asks, Night Vision when? 4.0. Well, actually, 3.23.
Yeah, right now they got night vision scopes in.
I think next year we'll probably see like night vision HUDs and stuff like that, but they need to add the star fashion thing that they have, where like armor and equipment are going to have different starware. Yeah, where they're going to have different values. I think that's when you'll see that sort of system added. But
I wish you could buy night vision scopes because they were added in 323 and I've never seen one.
Yeah,
I've never used one.
They don't like starlight scopes, anyways. But yeah, as with everything with Star Citizen, there's just a lot of stuff that isn't there yet. There needs to be some sort of counterplay, in my opinion, because nobody wants to play a game. I've played games like Arma, for instance, where if you're playing against somebody who doesn't have NVGs and you have NVGs in a situation, you just win. Like they won't be able to see you. You'll be able to see them perfectly, and you'll just win. It's so overpowered that it can break the game. So unless it's everyone has NVGs, then it's just boring. Then nobody has NVGs sort of situation. There's no reason to. There needs to be some balance to it, which I think they'll get to.
Yeah, all in due time.
Karsten asks, has anyone looked into the dependencies between the cards in the 1.0 part of the progress tracker? Not the progress tracker.
I guess it means release view.
Well, because there's been a discussion about adding dependencies, and I don't think we're ever. Jake Bradley announced that he was that they were leaving CIG this week, so that the last week of working for CIG was this week, and Jake was the mastermind behind the roadmap. So I don't envision the roadmap surviving Jake. I imagine the roadmap roundup comes out now much less frequently, and it's the progress tracker is going to be less valuable. So yeah, that's just kind of shitty. But at one point, the discussion was adding dependencies to the progress tracker so that you would know what this thing was connected to in terms of what other things it needs to be done. And Jake always said that they wanted to do that, but they never had the chance to add it because it was just a lot of work. And now that Jake is gone and there's nobody there, yeah, not going to see it. That you might as well just pretend the progress tracker and the roadmap roundup don't exist anymore, because I don't expect them to be updated for another year. So
I feel like they'll put someone in that place. They're not going to let everybody looks at the roadmap roundup. So is the holy gospel of unreliable information that I don't think they're just going to not do it since Jake left.
Well, they're going to have to hire somebody to do it. And that's going to take time and energy and resources, which will take time and energy. So you're probably looking at least 2 or 3 months. Plus then they have to onboard that person beyond that, or they have to train somebody who currently is there, and they already are short staffed for that. So while they may eventually put someone on it, it's going to be end of the year, maybe. So yeah. So Scott R says it'll probably be better. Go fuck yourself, Scott R. Jake did a really good job for what they had with the resources they had. It was amazing. You don't remember how bad it was before Jake showed up. So,
yeah. I think they'll end up with something equivalent. I don't think they're going to improve.
No,
but and I feel like they'll probably have this at least somewhat figured out by the time of the January planning season. But because I can't really imagine that in a company like CIG, they've only had one dude thinking about this, and then that one guy leaves, and they're just like, well, what now? Like, they have to have had some sort of backup person.
I'm sure Jake trained a lot of folks on how to look at it, but that was their job, was to take the JIRA and then digest the JIRA and then update the files. Someone's saying 12,000 person company and one dude is running the community management. No, there are multiple people running the community management. There's 6, but it's also a community of 5 million people. There's more than just one person. There's more than one thing. So
No, this is that whole thing is not going to collapse just because Jake left.
No.
It might see a bit of a pause, but we're in that time of a year where there's a pause in that anyways. So I feel like that I don't think it's going to be as big of a change as people are worried. It'll be a change, but I don't think it's going to be. It won't be better. Jake did a good job, but I don't think it'll be that much worse. Don't lose sleep over it.
Yeah. Paul say or Luna saying, I'm convinced you have definitely not played Elite. Anybody who's watched me play Star Citizen or has watched me long enough knows I played Elite. What I was saying is it doesn't have true 6 degrees of freedom. It has 6 degrees of freedom, but it intentionally nerfs, I believe, roll or
it emphasizes roll and then pitch
over yaw. Yeah. So which it makes it more like a plane movement.
Yes.
You can use 6 degrees, but it's not as you can't really move as nimble in 6 degrees as you should in vacuum. It is artificially tuned to be more like a plane, which CIG followed through, because CIG used to have it be like that, where you could move in any which direction you wanted to, and then they moved more in that Elite direction where they've sort of artificially tuned some things to make it so you can't just zip around like that. So
anybody that kind of complains about the fact that it's not like true spaceship movement, I feel like hasn't played Kerbal Space Program, because flying actual spaceships is hard.
It sucks. Like I love KSP, but it's not for everybody.
I feel like in a reality where we're 930 years in the future and spaceships are something that are pilotable by the common man, is they will have flight control computers that make them behave in this way that the ordinary brain can comprehend with a reasonable amount of training. So do spaceships in Elite and Star Citizen behave like they probably would in an equivalent real life future? I would say probably, because that, like, they have to make it controllable, right? So, there is no space drag, but the thrusters could be programmed to have space drag so that your brain can understand what's happening.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me anyways, from a, like I said, real life pilot perspective.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting you are a real life pilot, but yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, anybody, it's like when you look at things like The Expanse. Like, that's a great example that people always point to as a hard science fiction. They pull space magic out of their ass all the time with The Expanse. It's just because it has some handwavium in it doesn't mean it's not realistic. It just means that sometimes reality is boring and you need to add some spice into it. Because that's why we play video games and watch stories and read books and stuff like that. So I was just pointing out that Elite is not a sim in the same way that people would like harp on sim for other things. It is, it has sim-like aspects, like Star Citizen does, but even it has things that it tweaks for the improvement of the experience overall. Now, the one thing that Elite does have, which Star Citizen doesn't fully, is the nav assist off mode, which I never got used to with Elite. I could never get used to that. No. That is so hard, but that is more realistic science fiction. Like that, that's where it comes into the sim, but not everyone can do it, and not every ship, like not even NPC ships, operate in that way. So that's more of a sort of hardcore aspect, but it's not a required aspect. Yeah.
That is, that unlike speed limits, people complain about, in real life spaceships aren't limited to 1,500 meters per second. No, they're not. But anybody that complains about that has not tried to do a suicide burn in Kerbal Space Program. And so maybe those speed limits are a good thing. That's why they're there for safety. They're there
for safety, and they're for gameplay. It's to manage some stuff. There's also some other stuff. That's what I was talking about, Jen, was the Epstein drive. The Epstein drive, which is just this, it's just a super efficient fusion drive. Why? Well, because space magic.
Ty Frank or Daniel Abraham, the authors, were asked, how does the Epstein drive work? And they said, very efficiently.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
And it works very well.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. It's based off of actual realistic ideas of how space should move, but they've always, any writer will, or story creator, or even game maker will never let reality get in the way of fun or interesting stuff. So
Oh yeah.
Let's move on to the next question. Essential Asa asks, do you think they'll go back to diversify the assets so things don't look as and feel so samey? Yeah, I think they will eventually. The idea that you have like specific looking landing zones or outposts that all look very similar. I think they'll add stuff as they go along. But what do you think? Do you think they're going to change that up, or do you think they're going to keep it as is?
I think a little bit yes and a little bit no. They've already explained the sameness of things being that they're all like prefabs. I feel like they will diversify places in terms of like decorations, which they've already showed with like the different skins and stuff for settlements. I feel like they will go do a pass on space stations and stuff with all of that, but they kind of Stanton. If you go to Pyro and explore Pyro, I know not everybody's done this yet, but Pyro does not feel samey at all. Everywhere feels a little bit different. It's all like the rundown same aesthetic, but it's like in Fallout. Everything is different. It's all bespoke, and like that's a development progression on CIG's side. But also Stanton was developed very fast. It was very corporate, so they just bought from the lowest bidder. Whoever would sell them XYZ space station construction pack, and they bought it and constructed it in their own different configurations. That at least is that's my take on it. And they're not all exactly the same. Good day, sir. They all have different layouts. They're aesthetically very similar, but they are all technically different.
There's some also elements to say like, look at the International Space Station. It's all modules, even though each module is built by a different country. They're all the same. They all look the same. It's because replaceable parts, baby. You want standardization because it makes it easier for standardizing like deployment and payload. It's just like why everything is standardized. Like why do all planes in reality, all passenger planes, look more or less the same? It's like
they found the design that works, and then everybody just goes with it. Yeah.
And that's the same.
Ask any engineer about standardization, and they're going to be like, "Jesus Christ, yes, please! Everything should be exactly the same."
It just makes it easier for logistics chains and that kind of stuff. And, and it also makes sense in terms of level design. If you're making a game, you want to have Pyro look different from Stanton, and Stanton look different from Nyx, and Nyx look different from Castra. You should be able to glance and be like, I am here at this location. So it's also sort of narrative aspects as well. All right, next question comes from C. Vickers, who asks, with all the AUEC increases on player usable, so you think that CIG is doing this because they're selling AUEC on the third party sites? I mean, why jack up AUEC so high? What?
No. Saying that, are they making things more expensive to combat people selling AUEC on third party sites? No, I don't think CIG is thinking about third-party AUEC sales at all, aside from figuring out how to stop them eventually. But I don't think they're considering that at all in their game design. Tis my opinion.
Yeah, sorry, I was just responding to something from my wife real quick. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that's the case. Shocker asks, as a solo player, half the time I play, when will Star Citizen get to the point I meet people out there in the wild and not get shot immediately? There needs to be a lot of changes to how players interact with each other, with like uneven ground. As a fan and as somebody who plays a lot of survival games, you cannot have a rust syndrome in Star Citizen. There needs to be places that are safe, that are where players are encouraged to talk with one another. And those systems aren't in place yet, which is why just being a murder hobo is still okay. So
I feel like crafting and all that, player-owned bases are going to give people a reason to be nice to someone else. Because if you go and grief this person, say you're not like a career griefer, right? You just go randomly see somebody, oh, look, a easy target, I'm going to shoot them. That person might run a really nice shop that you might want to buy from someday.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably don't want to do that, because then they'll put you on their kill on sight list and they won't sell to you. Just a thought. Is that going to matter for the career murder hobos? No. But, there's always going to be people that'll just shoot you immediately if they get the chance. But I at least, I'd say my experience is like probably 70 or 80% of the time in the verse when I encounter somebody in random space. I don't have a hostile interaction. But I feel like there's selection bias in that question because you remember the times that you got shot. You don't remember all the times that you passed somebody and did not have a hostile interaction.
Yeah.
So that, I feel like it's better than you think. Doesn't mean it's not a problem. It's just better than you think.
Yeah. Generally, I'm surprised I haven't gotten ganked as much as I have in other places. But then again, I think most people are hesitant to pull the trigger if they think there's consequences. And I think when you start having those consequences of like reputation loss or other things, like prison isn't a something that people really care about if they really want to mess with you. But there's definitely there's almost certainly going to be some things where people go, I don't know if I want to do this right now with what I have. So, and that is really the key. And I think some sort of neutral ground where overwhelming force is not in the hands of the player, but in an NPC faction will also move that direction. So it's like you and this other person need to, are both going to the same place for the same reason, and you're both under the protection of an NPC faction where if either of you just do something stupid, you're going to get shot or you're going to lose some stuff. So
that's, yeah, it needs to be it needs to be a case where, at least in Stanton, if you get a CS5, the UEE should be responding with such overwhelming force that you have two options, which are retreat to Pyro or Grimhex, I guess, or go to jail. Like, those should be your options. You should not be like, you get to kill like 3 players or 2 players, and then you're just like not going to be able to be in Stanton or spend multiple days in prison. That is probably where CIG is going with it. We're just not there yet.
Yeah,
and I feel like Pyro should be full of murder hobos.
Yeah, well, I also think that murder hobos should be a thing that's very difficult to maintain in Star Citizen, because I think like shooting people with high reputation in certain factions should cause you to lose reputation with those other factions. So like if you shoot somebody who has a high reputation with the headhunters, then the headhunters will shoot you on sight. You'll lose reputation with that. And then if you also shoot somebody with like who's high reputation with Citizens for Prosperity, if you're just shooting everybody, then nobody wants to work with you because you piss everybody off. That kind of,
if you get to the point where you're unwelcome in Pyro, you're just well and truly screwed.
Yeah. So aside from selling ships, how about renting ships?
To other players, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the other players.
Yeah, I'm all for it. That, yeah, I hope CIG does it sooner than later, especially like an org fleet or something like that. Be good.
Luck Austri, Kesh1 asks, would you think it would be a good idea to have a manufacturing contracts where players supply NPC run stores with rare guns? And how many manufacturers is that? And how many they manufacture
is all that store
is all that this has. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think having players sell high level gear to stores and having those stores resell them is not a bad idea. I just don't think it should be something that is reliable.
Yeah.
Because, like, as somebody who wants to go into brewing in Star Citizen, if they have that option and making rare, like whiskey or something like that, then selling that on the market. I don't expect it to sell it to players because I don't think there's going to be a huge call for it for players, but I do expect it to sell it to NPCs. And if I sell it to NPCs, I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up on the market, for people to buy or something like that.
I'll
But
come to your bar and buy your exotic space whiskey.
thank you. But the point being, like, I expect some things, like I expect players to craft things specifically to sell on the market with NPCs so they can make money. There will be something that people who are crafters will make to sell. The old Skyrim dagger trick where you just grind out those. You're gonna need to sell those things eventually, so you need to sell them, that sort of stuff. But yeah. C. Vickers asks, do you think CIG is selling AUEC? I don't know. I already answered that question. Gin Tonic asks, okay with the 4.0 wipe? Yes.
Yeah.
We needed one.
It's not only necessary, but honestly kind of welcome at this point. My ASOP terminal list is far too long. It is far, far too long. And my inventory is just cluttered with so much garbage that I can't feasibly get rid of. But they need to test the economy. They've said that this is like, if they didn't want to wipe with 4.0, I probably think they probably wouldn't need to. It's not. I don't think it's a technological mandate, but just they're testing balancing.
All right. Citizen Dex asks, do you think we'll ever see the Galactopedia app in the PU? It might be cool to see various entities pop up as we travel around. Yes, 100%. They've added it to Squadron 42. I fully expect it in Star Citizen, and I fully expect it to proc just like in Squadron, where you show up and you run into you're nearby something, it'll just pop up as added to your entry or whatever. So I
want so bad for all the like TV screens and different ships that you can just sit down at like a desk and you got a TV right there. I want that to have like full like Spectrum integration, so you can go in there, you can watch Star Citizen live, you can watch Inside Star Citizen, you can browse the roadmap roundups, you can access the forums. If you could do that from inside your ship, God, I would love that so much. Give me something to do on those 10-minute pyro quantum jumps that isn't alt tab. I really want that. So I hope they do that. Galactopedia is an easy start though. 100%. Please do.
Escape asks, has CIG's mother not told them that they need to wipe regularly? Not wiping causes dingleberries. Wiping is good. It's healthy. Victor Hall
every now and again.
Victor Hall asks, is there really any other funding model outside of the subscription? Paints and skins are subjective, and I don't think selling ships will be acceptable in a large amount of people they're trying to go to reach post 1.0. It's worked thus far. Selling ships works. And there are other companies that use similar models. MechWarrior Online is another good example that sells mechs as a pre-order for before they come out. And when they come out, they're only available for the people who purchase with real cash for a certain amount of time. It's not impossible. The problem is that a lot of this is free-to-play model, which CIG is not going for. So I don't know. What do you think, Cepheus?
I feel like it's the question of how's CIG going to fund the game post 1.0, because they've talked about before how they're going to stop selling ships and it'll only be starter packs. It's of my belief that CIG can fund this game basically indefinitely with starter packs, like tier 1, tier 2 ships, so like up to like Nomad tier stuff, Nomad Gladius Arrow type stuff. Maybe Cutlass. Cut it off at the Cutlass. Like $110 Cutlass C1, whatever. That paints subscriptions like they currently have, which give you bonus little knickknacks every month, and then Squadron 42. I feel like that would be enough to sustain the game indefinitely. I have a very strong feeling that they're also going to, whenever they release a new ship, they will probably offer that for sale, kind of like they do now, for a few weeks or something when they first release it. And then it's AUEC available or UEC available and no longer viable on the store ever again.
I can see that.
I have a feeling it'll be new ships, starter packs, and low tier ships, paints, skins, Squadron 42 subscriptions.
I do think
I feel like they'll
the current subscription model I think that they use is perfect example. If they expanded that out to add things like custom skins available or other things like that, the key with any game success is to never put your put all of your eggs in one basket. All your apples in one barrel. You can't just like have one thing you do all the time that you make money. You need to diversify your income string. And CIG does a pretty good job. I don't think we're going to see a subscription model because subscription models do not work. And before
not
anyone
a pay-to-play
says
one.
No, especially not when you look at something. No one. I don't want people to come out and say, "Well, this game does subscription models." That game is either WoW or a game that has a very small, intense player base. CIG is not looking, or Eve, the small, intense player base. And even then, Eve is still free to play.
Is it?
Yes. It went free to play pretty recently because they'd been losing money over time. They got sold to a company in I want to say South Korea, I think.
I hadn't heard that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And
I've never played Eve, but yeah.
I think that the idea of expanding that subscription model they have currently as an optional one, things like cosmetics, because cosmetics really are what people want. But still allowing for stuff to be in game, but like extensive options for purchase, along with Squadron 42 and other single player games that they want to release, that will really be the thing that keeps them going. Because if they use Star Citizen as sort of an experimental, like sand pit for them to build new ideas that they can then use in single player experiences, I think people that they'll have plenty of money to be able to continue to fund Star Citizen. Though eventually, Star Citizen will run out of money. CIG will run out of money for running Star Citizen. It'll become too expensive for them to run it. That happens with every MMO except for WoW, which is the exception that proves the rule because it's made out of Blizzard money, which is now made out of Microsoft money. So, Once Human has proven that cosmetics is what people want and will buy. Ships, Star Citizen has proven that people will buy ships because they look cool. Like,
yeah, I do hope they stop selling like every ship like they kind of do, and just make it. I mean, maybe even open it up to like, still sell ships for all money, maybe at IEE and Invictus, but just nothing above a C1 can ever be bought outside of those two events, or if they've just released. I feel like that's probably the majority of their ship sales anyway. Is IAE Invictus brand new releases and starter ships. So they'd probably lose like 10% of their sales if they went that model, and then they could still kind of half-heartedly claim, "Oh, we're not selling ships anymore."
Yeah,
they'll be fine.
Next question comes from Angel Wolf NS. We're only down to the last couple of questions. Who asks? There's one question from Fred Eric Schultz, who said, "When did you stop loving our faces?" I've never stopped loving your faces. Though sometimes you make me question my love of your faces. Chat. Angel Wolf asks, "With the instance areas for contested zones, won't the same tech be usable to generate uninhabited star systems to be found through transient jump points?" No. Because they don't want players to be restricted out of star systems.
And every that would be like procedural.
Yeah.
They don't want that.
They don't want that. The most you'll see is instanced areas of the map or instance locations. Yeah.
Which we're getting with the depths in Area 18.
Yep. Well, it's also with the contested zones are all instanced. Every system is going to have its instance area. You've got the contested zones in Pyro. You've got the depths of Area 18. You've got the Vandal raids of Nyx. It'll be, I don't know what they'll have for Castor or Terra, but they'll have their own instance areas as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of like, crime-ridden streets areas of Terra or some sort of smuggling den region of Nyx. Everyone will have their sort of dungeons, is what they are. Shimpasa asks, "Do you feel CIG should create blank systems with Genesis so players can explore them and inhabit them? Eventually, but not initially." Maybe. What do you think, Cevius?
Maybe eventually. That would be like they're running out of ideas. type of thing. But long, like player only driven colonization. I don't know. In a long enough timeline. If this game lasts for 20 years post
Yeah.
1.0, maybe. But I have no idea.
I do think that the future of Genesis, if CIG is eventually willing to do so, is player hosted servers. A sort of, because Star Citizen is such an interesting game with such an interesting like set of tools that if CIG was able to, or if players were able to reverse engineer any of those tools to a way of making private servers, there could be any number of interesting things that players could create within the engine of the Star Engine and with the tools that they have.
Yeah.
But I think, and that's where Chris's original pitch with 2012 Star Citizen was included, that because he saw how much Freelancer had been kept alive with private servers running Freelancer multiplayer, hacked multiplayer. And that's why he wanted to do private servers. And I think that's going to be the future, the distant future of Star Citizen is eventually that sort of route where, you know, it gets armorified, where it's like it's more known for the modifications the players have made to it than the original game. But for now, yeah. All right. Mason Cold Iron asks, is there a timeline for the ArcCorp Sewers Civil Works? Oh, the depths that we talked about. No, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's next year. It didn't seem all that different from the contested zones. Did it to you?
No, it felt kind of the same concept, but in like more PvE, not really PvP.
Mm.
So like that. So yeah. I would agree, probably like late next year, maybe early 26.
Yeah. The one problem was it was all really white box. It was all,
Yeah.
it was PowerPoint presentation is what they showed. So the question is, do they have the assets to be able to quickly turn that around? And I don't know. It's hard to say. Wait, blank systems or blank servers? There's asking about blank systems, but I think the only way you get blank systems in the way that Shapasta was asking about is with private servers, where players can create their own systems from scratch, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Escapa asks, when do you believe we will be able to get BH/Merc missions within the cities? Like Bounty Hunter and Merc missions. I think probably Bounty Hunter 2.0.
Yeah. Whenever that happens. I have no clue when that happens. But yeah, I have a feeling that'll be a part of Bounty Hunting 2.0.
Canonless asks, possibility of buildable habs that will float in gas giants like Orison? They already answered that recently. They said not planned.
Yeah.
They said nope, not planned. Possibly, yeah, anything's possible, but I wouldn't expect that until well after 1.0.
And a long enough timeline.
Yeah. Last question is Epson Circle. Question, Vanduul bounties. That is kind of what is implied with the instanced Vanduul battles for Nyx. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some sort of bounty hunting where, like, you know, go out to this region of space and kill Vanduul, and if you come back with like 12 Vanduul heads, you get a bounty for them, because that's kind of an easy PvE sort of go out and practice and kill these NPCs you already know about. So,
yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, agree. I just agree. I don't really have any thoughts that build on that. I just agree.
Okay. Well, that was the last question. Thank you for joining us so far. Thank you, Cepheus, for coming on to this Captain's Table and Captain's Table After Dark. Thank you for those of you asking questions. Where can they find you, Cepheus?
Twitch.tv/Cepheus_TV and rsi.com/org/NSPC, Northern Star Org, link to our Discord. Come and say hi, hang out with us. Join us if you want. You're welcome to hang out anyway. Yeah.
Speaking of hanging out, if you want to join us live, you can join us on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub live on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Would love to have you come on and ask your own questions or hang out and chat with whoever the guests are for then. And if you really enjoyed this, make sure you hit that follow button on Twitch, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the like the video. It helps spread the word a lot. Really cannot underemphasize how a one like can actually do a lot of work to spread this to people who are like you, who might like Star Citizen and might like this content. And of course, hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. And as always, like I said, we are going to be moving on to a new site where this is going to be our new page where this is going to live, which is youtube.com/@thecaptainstabllepodcast. Make sure you check that out, and the link will be down below to make sure you can hit that and subscribe to us there, so you won't miss out on future Captain's Table episodes. Now, like I say every time, thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time, and if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black.